Joseph DeMott.
Here.
Karen Berry. Joyce J.
Here.
Davis Reinhardt.
Here.
Tracy Langworthy.
Here.
Wanda Sang.
Here.
And Mike Stites.
Here.
And Councilmember Adams is absent this evening.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of February 14th, 2011?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion for approval, seconded by Councilmember Stites. Any changes to the minutes? Please poll the council.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is citizens' right to speak from members of the public who wish to speak on any item not on the agenda. Speakers are allowed 3 minutes. Others may donate their time to the speaker at the podium for a total of 9 minutes. When you are speaking at the podium, you will see a green light when you start speaking, a yellow light when you have 30 seconds left, and a red light when your time is up. So if you're here tonight to speak on any item not on the agenda, please step forward to the podium and spell your last name and give us your city and or your address.
Karen Thaler, Thaler. I live in District 1. Good evening, Mayor DiTullio, City Council, and citizens of Wheat Ridge. That time of year again, I'm dressed formal for a reason. This weekend I will be competing for Mrs. Colorado once again and representing our fine city of Wheat Ridge. And just wanted to pass on some information regarding this weekend. Preliminary judging is Thursday at 7 p.m. at the Sheraton on 6th and Union. Tickets are $20 at the door. They are general admission. And all 46 contestants will compete in swimsuit and evening gown that evening. The finals are Saturday evening, 7 p.m. at the Buell in the Performing Arts Complex. Tickets are $25. The doors open at 6, and that is reserved seating. The last 4 years, the winners have been from El Paso County, Southern Colorado, Cherry Creek, and Highlands Ranch. And it's about high time Wheat Ridge brings home the crown. So I will do my best, and if anyone cares to come and cheer me on and join in me supporting our city, that would be fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Britta Fisher, Fisher, and I'm a resident of District 1. I'm also here tonight to speak about Wheat Ridge 2020 and wanted to start by thanking City Council for the funding for our low-interest loan programs for both the business loans and for the home loans. We've gotten several applications in the last just 2 weeks. We received that $250,000 of funding and are ready to get it out the door. So this is also a reminder to residents that if you are looking to do improvements to your business on 38th Avenue between Sheridan and Wadsworth, or to your home somewhere between Sheridan and Wadsworth, you may qualify for one of our loans, and you should look at our information at wheatridge2020.org. We're also making some great progress on another project. I'm going to hand some invitations to the clerk. I know many of you received this in your email already, but we are having an open house again for the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. We have our 5th home complete. It's at 3355 Ames Street. And that open house will be on Wednesday, March 2nd from 4:30 to 6:30. So if you can come, we would love to have you there. We often get people who are in the funding chain, so that means county officials and even HUD officials and state of Colorado officials come to those to see how we're putting those dollars to work, and we hope that you'll come and check that out. That's open to anyone here and anybody watching. It's an open house, so 3355 Ames Street on Wednesday. We hope to see you then. Thanks.
Do we have anybody else to speak under public comment before we move on? Under approval of the agenda, we can remove item 7 as if there's unanimous consent. Is there anybody not wishing to remove item number 7? Then item 7 will be removed by unanimous consent. Move on to item number 1, which is a public hearing and ordinance on second reading, Council Bill 04-2011. I'm going to open the public hearing. Councilmember Sang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Bill number 04-2011, an ordinance amending Section 13-6D of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning penalty assessment fines for excess vehicle weight violation. The state of Colorado has revised its fine schedule for overweight violations for commercial vehicles traveling on state and federal highways. As a result, the City of Wheat Ridge Code of Laws, Section 13-6, safety standards and specifications has fallen well behind the state's fine schedule. In addition, a comparison study of 3 other Jefferson County municipalities revealed that Wheat Ridge is well behind the fine schedules adopted by those jurisdictions as well.
Would the city clerk please assign an ordinance number?
Yes, Council Bill 04-2011 will be assigned ordinance number 1477.
Thank you. Is there any staff presentation other than the executive summary read by Councilmember Sang?
I would just add, Mayor and Council, that municipalities in the state have the authority to oversee traffic laws and fine schedules as they're established. And in this particular case, there certainly is a public policy concern as it pertains to this particular area. Overweight vehicles cause significant damage to our roadways and our public infrastructure, and they also present a pretty significant traffic safety hazard to the motoring public. We last revised, as Councilmember Sang noted, the ordinance as it pertains to these particular fine schedules were last revised in 1997. Last year we did 8 of these truck inspections throughout the city using our crime and traffic team. Typically, we had the opportunity to inspect about 33 to 34 trucks per day. In the 8 inspections that we did, it equated to about 269 trucks that were weighed and inspected. And of that number, 269, there were 264 violations that were either for weight or safety violations. So as you can see, it's a pretty significant safety issue. Also nationally, and looking at the data nationally as it pertains to traffic accidents and injury accidents and serious fatalities, the data nationally shows that there are a significant number of traffic accidents that are caused by commercial vehicles, and given the roadways that we have running through our city from a state highway perspective and a federal highway perspective, the police department felt that it was appropriate from a public policy perspective to bring these revised fine schedules, both as an effort to educate and also to create an enforcement option with truck owners and the businesses that operate these overweight vehicles, to bring them in compliance with state and local ordinances. And I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody from the public to speak on item number 1, Council Bill 04-2011? Seeing none, we'll move on to council discussion and comments. Do we have anybody on council who would like to discuss Council Bill 04-2011? I'm going to close the public hearing and a motion's in order.
I move to approve Council Bill number 04-2011, an ordinance amending Section 13-6D of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning penalty assessment fines for excess vehicle weight violations on second reading and to take effect 15 days after final publication.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion for approval, and it was seconded by Councilmember Stites. Discussion on the main motion. Please poll the council.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Item 2 is Council Bill 05-2011. I'm going to open the public hearing. Councilmember Reinhardt.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Council Bill 5-2011, an ordinance amending Section 2-59 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning the membership and powers of the Building Code Advisory Board. We've been discussing this for some time, and I regard it as the first step or a step in our ongoing process to keep our building department open and building new flexibility to reinvest in our community. This ordinance concerns the creation of the advisory, or the amendment and creation of the advisory board that will create new overseas rights on the new appellate rights to decisions of the building commission and changes the makeup of the board.
Thank you. Would City Clerk please assign an ordinance number?
Yes, Council Bill 05-2011 will be assigned ordinance number 1478.
Thank you. Staff presentation, Mr. Dahl, other than the summary by Mr. Reinhardt?
add to the staff report in any event. Thanks.
Move on to public. Please step forward if you'd like to speak on item number 2. Please spell your last name for the record and your city and/or your address.
Nancy Snow, SNOW. I'd like to make a few comments. First, I have a question. I noticed that this refers to being able to waive the International Building Code, the IBC, and I don't see any notation for the IRC, the International Residential Code. I have no opinion on that. I just noticed it's not in there, and I presume the city also enforces that. I do have some concerns, and let me tell you why. This last year, there have been article after article criticizing the building department on a lot of different issues, and I only want to speak on one, which is handicapped accessibility. I keep reading articles and comments about the building inspector making a fuss over 2 inches here and 2 inches there, and I have a great concern about handicapped accessibility. And for those of you who don't know what I did before I retired, I would like to say that I am an expert on this, at least about residential handicap regulations. And we had a lot of situations where the federal government or the state of Colorado had complaints against builders for not meeting certain requirements, accessibility requirements. And every time we ever had a case like this, the architect said the same thing to me. I don't understand what's the matter. We got a building permit from the city of whatever it was, and now you're telling me that it's all wrong and I have to do it over? Yeah, you do. And so a lot of the regulations that at one time were just in the federal law, either the Fair Housing Act or the Americans with Disabilities Act, are now in the building code, primarily in Chapter 11, I think. And I have a great worry that somebody's going to come to the city, come to this advisory board, and ask for a waiver because it's too expensive to do something that is in our building code. But it's in the federal law. Now I realize, and I'm happy to see that you do have a paragraph that says they can't waive, they can overturn decisions provided it doesn't decrease the public safety nor violate county, state, or federal law. But I guess my question to you is, I don't feel that's enough. Is our building inspector or whoever presents the case going to stand up and give you the details of the American with Disabilities Act and the Fair Housing Act so you're sure that they don't waive something? Because you do no builder a favor if you waive something and then somebody can file a federal lawsuit against them. And so as I say, I don't think that paragraph's enough. And I would also like to see if anybody's interested in paragraph D, where it says the board shall not have the authority to recommend decreasing public safety. I wish somebody would put an amendment there, or handicapped accessibility, because that's something that I think is very important, and most people don't think it's safety, and they're very irritated when they have to do these little nitpicking things that they think are nitpicking. But I can tell you that 2 inches sometimes for somebody in a wheelchair is a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else to speak on item 2 before we move on to council discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on to council questions or discussion. Ms. Langworthy?
I guess I would like to have Nancy's question about the 2 inches for handicap accessibility addressed. Because if it comes to an appeals board, don't they have to make sure that at least the minimum accessibility is met?
Well, others may want to weigh in. The bottom line standard is at the bottom of page 2 of the ordinance that their decision on the appeal may not violate county, state, or federal law. And if it's the ADA, then that's a federal law. I understand and appreciate when Ms. Snow is saying, well, why don't you backstop that, kind of bootstrap that a bit by adding it to the language in letter D, and you could, but if the idea is to make sure that federal or state law is not decreased or violated by the appeal, then that is what G says. And I'm sure, and kind of thinking about this, that quite likely, you'll have testimony and evidence in each hearing. And one thing that probably will be important going forward is to see what kinds of decisions this board is generating, and that may mean that over time, the nature of their decisions is such that the council ought to take another look at what the board's doing in one way or another. I have no idea if it'd be good or bad, but the point is that it's the kind of thing that you have. It's not a one-time only. You have continuing oversight authority really over that board, and you may want to tweak this ordinance after a year or two. It all depends upon how it plays out.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Stites?
Yes, I will probably, make an amendment to strike paragraph H, where the board may provide with respect to any decision made by the board or portion thereof, that such decision or portion shall have general applicability within the city on the matters therein addressed, and that the same shall constitute a regulation of the board and of the city. And because the problem that we have is we have to treat these buildings on an individual basis. We can't blanket them. We can't have a building down the street and have those standards, if it came down to an appeal, apply to another building across the street or down. And I think if we don't take Section 8 out, then this is, to me, is worthless, because we have to treat these buildings on an individual basis. It's the only way we're going to get them redone.
Mr.
May I respond to that? I'm not, the amendment doesn't necessarily bother me. I'm comfortable if we decide to go that way. But I would like to point out that the thought process was actually the reverse. The thought process was, if we've agreed if the oversight board has agreed to waive a certain criteria as unreasonable on one building, then an identical situation shouldn't be forced to go through the same process for the same question. So the goal was to allow the same question not having to be asked repeatedly at the Board of Adjustment. And so that was part of the thinking that went into this paragraph.
Yeah, go ahead. I understand that, but at the same time, if you had a building that would need X, we cannot have all buildings that come before it that need X, because it may be a different, situation or whatever. So I don't want it to be a precedent if somebody comes in and applies for dispensation on a particular thing. I don't want that to be the norm, for the whole city, because I still say that you have to treat each individual building as it comes in.
Ms. Berry? Ms. Langford?
Yes. Would it be possible, Mike, because because I'm okay with taking it out too, but I would like to see if what Davis says is if there is something that really is very general and it is broad, crosses a very, it would, I guess I'd like to see it come to council though, and have council decide if it's a policy change we should initiate, instead of just assuming that the board should make the policy changes. And then that way it could come to us and we can decide whether or not it really is general enough to be a good fit, then so we're not getting that, everybody cookie cutter kind of repair.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on some of that stuff, but we have to be careful that we don't get tied into one particular thing, because our ultimate goal is to rehab and redo some of these older buildings that we have, and we've got to do that with the best tools that we have. Now, if something comes across where it would help everybody,
yes,
I have no problem.
That was
That
kind of
can
where I was
come,
looking
yes,
at, yeah.
yeah. I have no
Yeah.
problem, but,
And that's why-
you know, to state it in here that it would become precedent for all buildings is wrong. We just can't do that.
Well, and if we have it come before council, though, then I think then as council, we can decide if that's a policy direction we want to go, instead of having a board decide for us what really policy.
Well, absolutely. I think the board could bring it to us as a policy change if they deem it necessary for, you know, several buildings, if there's something that would help all the buildings. You know, I have no problem with that, and I do think that then the board should come to us and say, listen, we think that this change would make a big difference, and I would be all for that.
I don't know how to make that change, but
Ms. Berry?
If everyone wants to take it out, it's fine, but it was my original idea to put this in, and it was from experience with other boards that if they come up with something that's an alternate material, a new construction practice, which happens a lot, and they deem that that's great, that's a better construction practice than we have on the books, why make everybody go through a variance? Why make people wait to change an ordinance, go through an ordinance change? It was really to streamline the process, and the Building Code Advisory Board is a board of technical experts, and I would trust their judgment on things that were just alternate materials or new construction methods that they deem meets the intent of the building code and protects public safety, but they could come up with those lists of things that could be applied under certain circumstances, and no one would have to go through a variance again, like I said, or we don't have to come back and change an ordinance every time somebody comes up with a new construction practice.
Any other comments from council? Ms. Jane?
This is a good change, I think, in our building code advisory board's possibilities. I'm also hearing Mr. Dahl suggest that we need to look at this process down the road a way, and I'm wondering if we can put something in here that would be a part of it, that within a year or something that we do a review process, see if this is working, seeing it needs to be changed again, because we are kind of walking along a new path here.
Just to respond to that, you always have that option no matter what. You always have that, sorry, you wouldn't have to make that in the ordinance. You have that option as council any time to review based on a recommendation from your fellow council members or the staff. So you don't have to memorialize it in a code.
I just wanted to kind of make sure that it happened.
I just wanted to respond to, I think that the amendment, or Section H, had good intentions, but I guess I'm looking at it from the reverse side, that I was afraid that if the Building Code Advisory Board ruled against something, then from then on, all of those would be considered a no. So I thought that it would probably make more sense to amend it out, to take out H for now and give it 6 months or a year and see how the process goes. And if the Building Code Advisory Board or staff see any patterns, they could bring those changes to City Council. But talking to staff today, they felt a little bit uncomfortable trying to have something amended by the Building Code Advisory Board and then really not going through a public process with the council.
And I agree with that. I do agree that we shouldn't never have the board tell us how to make policy. Is there a way, I mean, again, I'm okay with taking H out, but is there a way to add an amendment that would allow the board, the Building Advisory Code Board, to come to us with policy?
I actually think that's part of their mandate. It is already part of their
Okay,
mandate
okay.
to bring it back, so.
Okay.
I think what we're after, too, is, you know, to get the best product and the best service that we can for Wheat Ridge. And in so doing, I think, you know, it just has to stay on an individual basis, you know. But I wish that Section H would be pulled out.
Any other comments from council before I close the public hearing? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and a motion's in order.
I move to adopt Council Bill number 05-2011, amending Section 2-59 of the Building Code, the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws, accepting, as published here, accepting paragraph H, which, so it's the everything but paragraph H.
We have a motion for approval and also amending to remove Section H, to strike Section H. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on the motion? Please poll the council on the main motion as amended.
Motion carries 7-0.
Just some housekeeping. Mr. Snow, did we get the second on that? Did I?
Yes, I did.
And then as an ordinance number?
And an ordinance
Okay.
number. Yep, we got it.
And then it was at the request of Mr. Reinhardt that under Building Code Advisory Board tonight that you do not appoint anybody until we have this kind of fleshed out a little bit for the next 2 weeks. Maybe do it the next meeting. Okay. So if you have a Building Code Advisory Board nomination, let's hold off on that till the next meeting.
Because we have the 8 versus 5 issue when this ordinance comes into effect, that's all.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is ordinances on first reading. The purpose of first reading is to notify the public of the date and time of the public hearing. Amendments are allowed on first reading, but public comment is not allowed on first reading. Item 3 is Council Bill 06-2001. Councilmember DeMott.
Thank you. Council Bill Number 06, 2011, an ordinance amending Article 11 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws by adding a new Article 12 concerning medical marijuana and making certain amendments to Chapter 26, zoning and development in association therewith.
Motion's in order.
I move to approve Council Bill Number 06, 2011 on first reading, order it published, public hearing set for Monday, March 14, 2011 at 7 p.m. in City Council chambers, and that it will take effect 15 days after final publication. I further move to amend Council Bill 06, 2011 to add the following sentence to Section 11-294. Medical marijuana establishments that are in existence as of the effective date of this section must submit an application for a medical marijuana license within 30 days of that effective date.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion for approval as amended, seconded by Councilmember Langworthy for public hearing schedule. Please poll the council.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is decisions, resolutions, and motions. Item 4 is Resolution 07-2011. Councilmember Langworthy.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution number 07-2011, a resolution approving a planned industrial development, final development plan amendment, and a 3-lot re-subdivision plot for property located at 5130 Parfait Street. Case numbers WZ-10-08 and MS-10-04, Haas Electric. The applicant requests approval of a planned industrial development, PID, final development plan amendment, and a 3-lot re-subdivision plat for property located at 5130 Parfait Street. The purpose of the request is to expand outside storage for the electric contracting business on the property and to recognize and accommodate grading activities which have already occurred. The development plan amendment process being followed is a process used when the property was originally zoned and platted in 2003. That is an ODP and FDP requiring approvals through Planning Commission and City Council public hearings. Pursuant to Article 3 of the Zoning and Development Code, Plan Development District Regulations, the procedures and requirements for amending an approved development plan, outline or final, shall be the same as prescribed for original approval.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing. If you're here to speak on this agenda item, please stand and raise your right hand. I need to swear you in. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in this matter? Thank you. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record and your position with the city.
Oh. Okay. Members of council, for the record, Meredith Reckert, Wheat Ridge Community Development Department, Senior Planner. Case number WZ 10-08 and MS 10-04 is a request by Haas Electric for approval of a planned industrial development final development plan amendment and a 3-lot re-subdivision plat at property located at 5130 Parfait Street. I would like to enter into the record the subdivision regulations, the zoning ordinance, case file and packet materials, and contents of this digital presentation.
Accepted.
The property is located within the city of Wheat Ridge, and I'll proper posting and notification requirements have been met. Therefore, council does have jurisdiction to hear the case this evening. On the screen in front of you, outlined in red, is the property in question. It's just over 151,000 square feet in size, and it's currently being utilized as an electrical contractor's office and storage yard. It was rezoned from A1 to PID in 2003, and there was an outline development plan that was for lots 1 and 2, which were the northern two pieces here for PID zoning, and then the southern piece, which is currently Lot 3, was to remain agricultural 1. And as per that approval, an electrical contractor's storage shop and storage yard is an approved use. You can see that the property is irregularly shaped, and there's about a 30-foot change, a grade change from the northern portion of the lot down through the southern portion. We've got 50th Avenue that dead ends to the very southeast corner of the property, and Parfit Street, of course, is the main frontage for the land. Property is surrounded by a mix of zoning and land use. To the north and east are generally planned industrial developments and some I-zone properties, which contain a variety of office, warehouse, and manufacturing uses. Abutting the property to the west along Parfit are A1 zone properties currently utilized for some general farming. There's some greenhouses mixed in there and also some single-family residential. And to the south is vacant property zone C1. This is the first sheet of the existing final development plan that was approved for the property in 2004. And so what it did was it showed the existing structure on the property, which was previously a residential unit converted to an office. The northern portion of the property depicted outside storage in this area right here, and there was a paved access that came from Parfit Street and then down into this second lot. The second lot was intended to have a future office warehouse structure with about 7,300 square feet of area. The bottom portion, which again is the piece that's zoned A1, was intended for detention and utility easements to accommodate the development on the other side, or on the north side. As council is aware, property zone plan development must be used in accordance with the approved FDP, and any deviation from that approved document constitutes a zoning violation. So I'm going to walk you through some pictures of the property. This first slide is the view from Parfit Street. Again, this is that old house that was converted into an office. This is taken from the north side. Again, this is that structure with some outbuildings. This is the portion on current Lot 2, which is the outside storage. And you can see it's screened and it's got some barbed wire on it. Another view looking towards that outside storage area. And now I'm kind of moving down the property, again, still looking west. This is the area of that access drive, which was shown. Further to the south, still looking west, and you can see some of those existing residential properties over adjacent to Parfit Street. This is the view taken from 50th Avenue at the very southeast corner of the property looking north. And then this is that where 50th Avenue dead ends into the site. I've got a series of aerials I'll just go briefly through just to show you sort of the history and how we've gotten to where we are today. This first aerial photo taken in 2001, again you can see the existing outline with the office up there at the top, and essentially the southern portion vacant. Here's 2004. It looks pretty much the same. It looks like we might have some storage containers or semi-trailers on the property, a few down here too. 2006, kind of more of the same. And then 2008, which is the most recent picture we have of it. This was the condition of the property when the owner was cited for numerous zoning code violations because the use of the property wasn't in was not consistent with the approved final development plan. Also at that time, there were also some citations for stormwater and illegal fill and grading violations because there was fill dirt placed in this area here without any sort of city approval. So we worked through and got to a place where we were working with the property owner, and primarily most of the violations had ceased. That was about in the fall of 2008, and the owner continued to work with the stormwater coordinator to address any of the violations of the state. But by late 2009, again, the property was out of compliance. And I would point out that, as you can see in this picture, there are several storage containers on the property, and as well as some prefabricated buildings. We understand the plight of a property owner. Sometimes by the time you go through a big, long zoning process, by the time you get done with it, it doesn't do what you need it to do. And the property owner has indicated that he does need the additional outside storage on the property, but he can't afford to build the 7,300 square foot building, which was to have gone down here with all the site improvements and paving and utilities and so on. We've tried to work with him over the past couple of years, both myself, planning department, as well as public works, but it really wasn't until he was cited into municipal court in June of 2010 where we got any sort of activity on it. The intent of this application is to get approval of the FDP, which is essentially the same as the one that you have in your packet, the previous one, showing the layout of the building, parking and drives and so on, but also to address some of the stormwater and grade issues we've got on the secondary lot. So this is the FDP. I know it's a little bit hard to read with all the cross-hatching on it, but it is essentially the FDP for the northern portion of the site. Again, we've got Parfit over here with north to the top of the screen. This is that existing building here. As you can see, they're intending to come in here with a new drive, doing some formalized parking, some installation of new landscaping. There's a lot of mature trees on the property, and so they've gone to some trouble to try to protect those and save them. The storage area, which is back here behind the building to the east, which was originally on Lot 2, is now going to be on Lot 1, and that's part of the reason we had to run a subdivision with it, was to actually move, let me find my cursor, the existing lot line, which is about right here, down to here, so that this all becomes Lot 1, and he's got a fully functional office with outside storage area for his contracting building. The existing drives into the property, there's one at this location and then a secondary drive. Both are gravelled. Those will be paved as part of this approval process. And the storage area is currently screened, and with the expansion of that, there will also be screening which runs down and provides some buffering for that new area. Also the planting of a couple new trees. I would point out that the one sort of deviation from the code that we've got tonight is that this area, which is the outside storage area, is currently, it's not paved, but it's covered with recycled recycled concrete. Typically, that's not something we allow, but this is a planned development. And further, that original FDP, if you look closely on it, shows it as recycled concrete. So it was already approved back in 2002, 2003, and he's just extending that down here. The southern portion of the site, this is, I believe, page 2 of your plan set, has been amended to reflect the existing condition. We've had quite a bit of fill that's been placed in this area. Swadley Ditch has been enclosed, and the existing condition, again, will addresses that recycled concrete prod in, and also some of the natural areas that are remaining on the property. The southern portion of the property will be regraded to accommodate drainage easement to accommodate all the improvements on the north side. And like I say, Public Works has taken a look at a drainage report and plan, and they have approved that. And what they're showing on this FDP with the new pond down at the bottom is consistent with what was shown on the drainage report. Access into Lot 2 will be from 50th Avenue, which again is down here. There's currently a drive that comes up from 50th into kind of that flat area, but it exceeds the city standard for a 10% slope, and also the fire district standard of 8%. It's right about 18. And because of that, staff has concluded that there is inadequate access. And so upon request, they are combining these two lots so that lot 2 isn't essentially landlocked, which was in violation of state law. We've also added some language on the front of the document so that nothing can occur in this area. It remains as is and can't be further developed until the property owner or a potential buyer would come back through with an FDP amendment through this process. Staff has concluded that the proposed FDP is consistent with the underlying ODP approved back in 2002, and that all requirements for PCD outline development plan have been met. So this is the existing plat for the property. Again, you can see the configuration of the lots with Parfait over here on the left-hand side, 50th Avenue down here. We've got the 3 existing lots, Lot 1 in this location, Lot 2, and then Lot 3 down here on the bottom. To accommodate the expansion of the outside storage and to allow this to actually be used with the contractor's office, the existing, let me go to the proposal. The existing lot line right here is being removed right in this location and moved down here. And now we've got a single lot, which is combined out of lots 2 and 3. And once again, we did request this, so we did not landlock Lot 2. We would like them to be developed as a package, and we think this is a better situation for both the city and the property owner, because he has indicated that he would like to convey the property in some sort of sale. We've done our typical standard utility easement reservations around the perimeter. We show the existing drainage easements that have been vacated and then rededicated for the new drainage report that's been approved. I would point out that in the past, West 50th Avenue has been somewhat a discussion item, and that on the old plan, it showed a future dedication of 25 feet down at this location. And by past policy on other land use cases, it has been determined that 50th Avenue will not be extended, and so that future dedication has been removed, and no dedication at that location. Staff does make a conclusion that all the regulations and standards of the subdivision regulations have been met. Agency referrals. Our ratifier is also concerned about that access into Lot 2 not meeting the fire accessibility codes, and therefore they concur that they like to see it combined, and that there is notations on the document that prevents any further development until we've done an FDP, and then the grading, of course, is corrected. Valley Water has existing lines that run through the property, and again, they need to be maintained, and there will be new lines and hydrants required upon any sort of redevelopment scenario on that southern portion. Wadsworth Ditch, which is the southern ditch on the property, has indicated that enclosure will require a license agreement with the ditch company, and that's been included in the drainage report and plan. And finally, Public Works has reviewed and approved the plat and drainage report. Planning Commission reviewed this at a public hearing held on January 20th. They recommended approval of both plat and the FDP. There were 4 conditions on the FDP approval. Primarily, they dealt with just some numbers that didn't make sense. I think there was a couple mistakes, and so those have been corrected. The one that has been kept and included is that all the improvements be done on the property within 6 months of City Council approval. And again, we are given a recommendation for the FDP. We have concluded that it's consistent with the ODP approved in the early 2000s, and that all requirements for an FDP have been met. Again, we're giving a recommendation of approval with the condition that improvements be installed within 6 months of the City Council approval. And we've also concluded that the subdivision plat is consistent with the subdivision regulations and are giving a recommendation of approval on that as well. So that does conclude the staff comments, and I would be happy to answer questions if you have those.
Thanks. We'll move on to public comment first. Do we have anybody here? Well, actually, the applicant, would you like to say anything on your behalf? Okay. Let the record show the applicant did not want to speak at this time. Do we have anybody here from the public who'd like to speak on this item before we move on to council questions and discussion? Item 4. Seeing none, we'll move on to council discussion. Ms. Berry?
Meredith, just so I think I totally understand, would you briefly list the conditions that have to be done within 6 months?
Okay. I don't have a list anywhere, but essentially it will include installation of formal landscaping and a parking area with paved surface up in this front area right here. Some internal sidewalks would have to be constructed. Both this drive, which is more of a service drive, and this, which is the main drive into the property, will have to be paved. This area will have to be extended with the proposed recycled concrete, with the fencing extended down into this area here with a couple additional trees planted. You do have a landscape plan as part of the FDP, and there's quite a bit more that has to be installed in this area, but that would all need to be completed prior to 6 months, where I will have to go back to court and report on status.
So the completion of the license agreement with the ditch companies and all of that doesn't
Yes.
have to...
That does as well. There's some grading that needs to occur down here. Part of that includes the enclosure of the ditch and the licensing agreement. That's part of it, to make this site actually function up here with the improvements down at the bottom.
Okay, and is the applicant agreeing to this condition? It's not in there, so I assume that the applicant has some issues with it.
I sure hope he is. Dave.
If you're going to come on up to the mic, if you're going to go ahead and answer the question, and please spell your last name for the record. Thank you.
Sure.
Yes, we already paid for the ditch licensing. We came to an agreement on...
Sir, please spell your last name for the record and give us your city or your address, and then go ahead and start answering the question.
David Haas, H-O-S-S, address 5130 Parfait, work.
Thank you.
So we have already made arrangements with the Wadsworth Ditch Company and came into terms. They're going to pipe the ditch. We have the equipment to do it also, but they wanted to use their guys, so it's all handled at this point. We have to pay them $6,000, and that'll be done. It has to be done before April 7th, before they turn on the ditch water.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was wondering about it, because if you couldn't reach an agreement soon, you might end up having to wait until the irrigation season was
They've
over.
got it going.
Okay, great. Well, I just wanted to make sure. Sometimes getting an agreement with a ditch company can be a very long and involved process, even more so than zoning. So,
He's been visiting quite often.
all right, thank you very much.
Any other questions before I close the public hearing? Ms. Langworthy?
I just have one quick question. On the original Lot 2, there's some storage structures there. Are those going to be moving up into Lot 1, or are they going to stay where they're at?
Whatever is there, which this photo is actually not that representative of what is out there today. I think he's got a couple trailers. Those will be moved up here or off the site. They're all gone. Okay.
Let the record show that the applicant said they were all gone. The buildings were all gone off that location. Pardon? Trailers. Thank you. Any other questions or comments before I close the public hearing? Close the public hearing and a motion's in order.
I move to approve resolution number 07-2011, a resolution approving a planned industrial development, final development plan amendment, and 3-lot re-subdivision plat on property located at 5130 Parfait Street. Case numbers WZ-10-08 and MS-10-04 for the following reasons. The final development plan is consistent with the standards set forth in the approved outline development plan for the site. All requirements for a PID, final development plan, have been met. All requirements of the subdivision regulations have been met with the following condition. All improvements on the revised FDP must be in place no later than 6 months after City Council approval. Is a motion in order? Oh, wait, you already did that, sorry.
Yes, the motion is in order, no.
Sorry.
Is there a second?
Oh, thank you.
Second.
Did you have other conditions?
That was the only condition that you have listed.
That's the only one staff is recommending.
Okay, we have a motion for approval based on the packet, seconded by Councilmember Demott. Mr. Dahl, did you want to repeat a little bit louder what you said earlier about the trailers so everybody's on the same page?
Just on the record, the applicant had said that all the trailers are gone. I think you'd repeated and said the buildings.
Buildings, okay.
But you'd meant to say the trailers.
Okay.
That's that.
Is that true, Miss?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't hear sometimes. Please poll the council on the main motion.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Item 5 is the board appointments. We'll start with District 4, Mr. Demott.
Do you guys need this? Are we done?
Please read slowly and carefully so Mr. Snow can get all the names.
Thank you. I have 2. I move to appoint Valda Pancos to the Cultural Commission, term ending March 2nd, 2014. And I move to appoint Tracy Gilner to the Liquor Authority Board, term ending March 2nd, 2012.
Is that it?
There's 2 more. Paul Hoagland and Liz Vita.
Okay, I move to reappoint Paul Hovland to the Board of Adjustment, term ending March 2nd, 2014. I move to reappoint Liz Veeder to the Parks and Recreation Commission, term ending March 2nd, 2014.
So we have 4 motions, or one main motion with 4 appointments. Is there a second?
Second.
That motion was seconded by Councilmember Langworthy. Discussion on the 4 appointments. Please poll the council.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. District 2.
I move to appoint Lily Griego to the Board of Adjustment, term ending March 2nd, 2014. I move to reappoint Patricia Ennis to the Parks and Recreation Commission, term ending March 2nd, 14. I move to reappoint Steve Timms to the Planning Commission, term ending March 2nd, 14. And to reappoint Millie Nadler to the Cultural Commission, term ending March 2nd, 2014.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion for approval, seconded by Councilmember Sang. Please poll the council on the board appointments for District 2.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. District 1, Councilmember Berry.
We only had the Building Code Advisory Board, and we're postponing that.
Okay. So District 3.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. With pleasure, I would move to appoint Virginia Petty to the Animal Control Commission, term ending 3/2/14. Louise Turner to the Animal Commission, term ending 3/2/14. Got it? Okay. Thomas Abbott to the Board of Adjustment, term ending 3/2/14. Kathy Kones to the Parks and Recreation Commission, term ending 3/2/14. And Loretta DeTuro to the Cultural Arts Commission, term ending 3/2/14.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. I wanted to let council know that Mr. Abbott had applied for the Board of Adjustments, but he also applied for the Building Code Advisory Board for the at-large position, so he really was interested in that. So if you're interested for the next time around, he'd be willing to resign from the BOA. And I'm just expressing that because he had told me that yesterday on the phone. So we have a motion from Mr. Stites, seconded by Councilmember Langworthy. Discussion on the main motion? Please poll the council.
Motion carries 7-0.
And I've been informed, Ms. Berry, you do have one?
Yes, I apologize to Mrs. Robb. She was reappoint to the Cultural Commission, term ending 3/2/14.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please poll the council.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. We have item 6 is a motion to ratify a mayoral appointment. Councilmember Langworthy.
Thank you. A motion to ratify mayoral appointment to Wheat Ridge Housing Authority. The Wheat Ridge Housing Authority's members are appointed by the mayor and ratified by City Council. Mayor DiTullio has asked that Joseph DeMott be reappointed to the Housing Authority as a City Council representative. Is a motion in order?
Motion's in order.
I move to ratify the council member mayoral appointment of Joseph DeMott to the Wheat Ridge Housing Authority, term to expire March 2nd, 2016.
Second.
We have a motion for Councilmember DeMott, seconded by Councilmember Stites. Please poll the council.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Item 7 was pulled by council by unanimous consent. Item 8 is Dr. Cog, Councilmember Jay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 8 is motion to approve payment to the Denver Regional Council of Governments, Dr. Cog, in the amount of $21,780 for the 2011 inspection of conveyances, parentheses, elevators, within the city of Wheat Ridge, per the approved intergovernmental agreement.
Motion's in order,
Shall I read the issue?
if you wish.
Okay. Each year, the City of Wheat Ridge enters into an intergovernmental agreement, IGA, with the Denver Regional Council of Governments to conduct inspections of conveyances, typically elevators, within the city. The city receives an invoice for the annual cost of conveyance inspections in January of that year, which is to be paid within 60 days of the date of invoice. The invoice for 2011 inspections in the amount of $21,780 is currently due and requires council approval for payment. I move to approve payment to the Denver Regional Council of Governments in the amount of $21,780 for payment of fees for inspection of conveyances within the city during the 2011 calendar year.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion for approval, seconded by Councilmember Sang. Discussion? Please poll the council.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Item 9 is ITB 10-227. Councilmember Reinhardt.
Item number 9 is a motion to award ITB 10-27 for Wadsworth Boulevard median improvement to the Goodland Construction, Golden, Colorado, in the amount of $883.50. In 2009, the city was awarded a federal hazard elimination program grant for safety improvements on Wadsworth Boulevard. The project includes design and construction of a raised median to control left-hand turning vehicles. This was put out to bid under all the standard protocols, and the apparent low responsible bidder was Goodland Construction. There is no direct cost to the city, as this is all funded from outside funds. Is a motion in order?
Motion's in order.
I move to award ITB 10-27 Wadsworth Boulevard median improvement to Goodland Construction, Golden, Colorado, in the amount of $65,883.50, that a contingency amount of $6,588 be established, and the Director of Public Works is authorized to issue change orders up to a total contract and contingency amount of $72,471.50.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion for approval, second by Councilmember Sang and Stites. Discussion on the main motion. Please poll the council.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. That concludes our agenda for tonight. I move on to city managers' matters.
Nothing this evening, thanks.
City attorneys' matters.
Nothing for me, thanks.
Thank you. City clerks' matters.
Yeah, just an update on the progress developing a redistricting plan for the city of Wheat Ridge. The council at least has seen that the data actually has been released for the state of Colorado. That's the block level census data. So we're working on summarizing that data into something that's useful to us and presentable. And if we can get something completed in time, we will discuss it at the study session next week. And then we'll be able to hear that to the first and second reading in the month of March. So just an update there. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Since Councilmember DeMott's been coughing up a lung, I better go to him first tonight. So do you have anything for elected officials?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Reinhardt?
I just want to say that I'm glad that we passed the changes on the CBOC, and I hope it's the first step in a series of actions to make our building department and all of our departments, frankly, as open to business as they can be.
Councilmember Sang? Councilmember Jay? Councilmember Langworthy?
I'd just like to say a quick welcome to the MCPN. They had their kind of get-together on Wednesday, and unfortunately, the flu finally hit me in the house, so I was unable to attend, but I hope that they had a very successful evening, and it goes well for them.
Thank you, Ms. Berry.
Nothing, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stites.
Oh, yeah. Number one, the last 2 weeks really kind of upsets me because somebody, or whatever, has been dumping furniture on corners. And out in District 3, I've seen, some leather seats, some chairs and particular things like that. I would ask you to stop it. If you can't find somebody that's going to pick it up, then don't just dump it somewhere. I would ask Patrick, the city, as these city trucks are driving around, if there's a furniture or something on the corner, pick it up, would you? I don't care what you do with it, but, it looks gross out there.
BDF Tire needs a new couch.
And I'm not about to let that happen to this city, so knock it off. You can make arrangements to have your stuff picked up, but I think it's ridiculous that someone, whomever it is doing that, and I really would wish you stop it. As always, this is a great time to relocate to Wheat Ridge, either your business or your home, or both, for that matter. If you need help, see one of us up here, staff. We have a new economic coordinator now that would be happy to help you. Please always, as always, do a positive thing for your family, your neighbors, your community. We need to work together. It's filthy out there right now because, you still got the snow and this and that and a lot of stuff out there. But, we need to help each other clean up. And as always, please try to find it by Wheat Ridge. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few things I wanted to cover. I wanted to kind of piggyback on what Councilmember Reinhardt said. It's been a long process for the last 2, 3, 4 years to get some things squared away with our building department and the codes. So I wanted to thank Councilmember Reinhardt and Patrick Goff, Ken Johnstone, Mike Stites, all the council for really addressing some of the issues that we had to get going on the public policy issues of building codes, especially with our city trying to redevelop and be open for business. I think we're on a very good start now with all the changes we've made. I do support the Building Code Advisory Board. They're going to be an appeal board. They'll be quick acting and long lasting. So good job on bringing that forward. looking forward to it. Like I mentioned, if council so considers, Tom Abbott would really like to be on that. And he has a lot of background experience with the fire department of Denver. And a lot of that would be really helpful if they're reviewing codes as they go through the process. So I hope you would consider him for the appointment if it comes up. I also wanted to thank Councilmember Langworthy and the council members that attended the Live Well Wheat Ridge with Molly Hanson. We're looking at summer feeding programs at the grade schools in City of Wheat Ridge. That's going really well. And Joey was there also. I couldn't make it. I'm really busy with Regis right now, so a couple more months and I'm done, so I'll be happy about that. But I wanted to thank the council members for attending that I asked to show up, because a lot of this is at Pennington, which is going to be a District 4 school, and some other schools around there. And also, if you're a parent and you're in Jefferson County and you have a 3rd grader through 10th grader, please remember that this week and next week are CSAP testing. I know CSAP testing has gone full circle in a lot of ways, but really it's a way for the school district to measure achievement of your student. So to have them not take it is really a disadvantage for your student, because this shows what they've learned in the last 9 months, and it goes 3rd grade through 10th grade. And it does rate the schools and it rates the teachers to see how they're doing and their learning within the school district. So please don't try to boycott it for philosophical reasons. It's really to show whether your student has learned something going to school every day. It really does help. I also wanted to thank all the folks who have donated to the public art at Discovery Park. We started off with a $50,000 tab for the art. It's down to $4,700. So we've raised almost all of it within the last couple of years. So I'm very excited. We're doing a few more fundraising letters to previous donors, but we should have that wrapped up by the end of the year, if not sooner. And that project will be paid in full. So I thank all the people who've donated to that project. The other thing I wanted to mention, this came up, there's a couple of residents in the city that have filed paperwork like building code permits. And right now, the way it's working, everything that the city is getting, it's a public document, there's no argument about that. They're public documents, but everything is being scanned into the Laserfiche. And so Mr. Dahl wanted to kind of bring it up a bit, see if council wanted to talk about what should actually be going out on the internet versus what is just scanned and stayed within the city. Because we have situations where if people are being stalked or being looked for, like ex-spouses, previous spouses, that they can find this information on the internet, and it contains a lot of personal information. So Mr. Dahl, did you want to kind of bring it up as far as you and I talked a couple of days ago?
Yes, we did. The city places is in the process and has had a program now going that started in the community development department, but the idea was for it to eventually get to all departments. There's a lot of paper and it takes up a lot of room in the city, and the program now is that the city is converting these things to Laserfiche. That means that in some cases the only document, the only public document the city will have on a given item will be on Laserfiche, and the city needs, of course, to be open for business and comply with the Open Records Act. And the Open Records Act says if it's a public document and it isn't subject to a pretty narrow list of exceptions, the identities of victims of sexual assault and scoring keys for scholastic tests, that kind of connects up with CSAP. These are the kinds of things that public agencies can refuse to disclose to the press, or really anyone just walks in the front door and says, I'd like a copy. Pardon me. So the city has to comply with that statute. There's various ways we have to comply with that statute with respect to people coming in and asking for those documents, and sometimes we'll get email requests for those documents or requests over the mail for those documents, and we'll provide copies at a charge. What is not required is that the city place all, some, or any of these documents on the internet. The Open Records Act does not presently require that. It requires that if I want to get a copy of any building permit that's been issued in the last 10 years, I can come in, go upstairs and get a copy. Now, whether that copy is made from a hard copy piece of paper we actually still have, or it's made from a Laserfish retrieval system, doesn't matter. I'm the citizen, I come in, I leave with what I have a right to get, which is that information with all of that stuff on it. And if I have the proper names, I'll get that information. But what is not required, but what I will tell you is very commonly done by local governments and by the state government now, is to allow that information to be accessible by the internet so that I don't have to come in or make a specific request. I can just access it. You probably know that you can get on the assessor's web list and get assessment information for all the people on your block and find out what they paid and what their mortgage is, and you can do all that just now on the internet with the assessor's office. It's not required that the assessor make it available in that way. They could require, and I'm taking probably too long to tell you this, but it kind of sets up the policy question that I think is important. I could go down to the assessor's office in Jefferson County and ask for those items, and they would give them to me across the desk, and I'd pay for them. But it's easier, for me to do that on the internet. The concern arises when the information that's on the internet is more searchable, and to be very honest, the city loses control over the content and can't really edit content once it's on the internet. Bluntly, the city doesn't control how Google, for example, sets up its search engine criteria and how easy it is for me to, if I'm looking for all the documents DeTullio, just to use the mayor as an example, we can't control how Google makes that available once the city allows that material to go out. So it's a policy call for the council, not whether we comply with the Open Records Act. That's not a policy call. We have to. The policy call is, does this information, does the city make it available other than in this more traditional Open Records Act sense? And does it make it available to the internet, and once it's out there, it replicates and it's available? The city has been doing that and has been moving in that direction with records, in part to reduce volume. But you can reduce volume, of course, and still keep it electronically here at the city. And that's kind of the policy call. I won't tell you how to make that call, but it's also a true thing, and not hiding the fact that most government agencies are, to some degree or another, making their documents available in a searchable form that they begin to lose some control of in terms of the searchability.
And my comment tonight wasn't to make a decision tonight, but I'd like to see if anybody would like to put this on a study session to discuss it, because if you're searching the Jefferson County, for example, you can search by an address or search by a location. What we're running into now is, if someone's looking for somebody, they could type in their name on the internet, and then it comes up with their address and their phone number and all their information. And we have an instance in the city where this person's trying to hide from a stalker. Well, now they can go on there and find a building permit where it has their address and their phone number and has their name and everything. So the control is, like at the county where there's public information, you can go by an address or something that's not quite so personal as a last name. And so it would just be a good discussion to have with council as a policy of what they want to actually allow on the internet versus what's public. I mean, everything's public, but what would actually be on the internet for Google search.
And if you want to do that, I'd really encourage you, and I'm sure you will, make certain that the city clerk is part of that conversation, as well as Mike Steinke from our IT department. We've had a number of staff-level discussions to kind of address this one person's concern, but in the addressing of that, this policy, it's a policy call for the council. It's kind of come up, and I'm sure the staff would like to know what direction the council wants to go.
Ms. Berry?
You can search by name at the county's website. You can search by name or address, parcel number. I mean, that information is already available. If you have someone's last name and they purchased a piece of property or in the clerk and recorder's database, that will come up.
Well, so the question I have really is, would council like to look at this just as a policy that we're not releasing more information as a city than needs to be, especially on like building permits and things that are more everyday mundane types of documents. So it'll be a discussion at a study session with, like the city attorney mentioned, a few of the staff people.
I think it's an important enough issue that staff should prepare us a briefing on. I have, I search records for primarily zoning and planning issues in a lot of jurisdictions, and I actually inadvertently pulled up somebody's building permit one time by their name, and there was no, I don't know whether I think it should or shouldn't be available, but it's clearly possible to find someone with a Google search through the building permit process right now, and whether we want to be participant in that, I don't know, but it clearly can happen. So I'd like to have the discussion.
Does anybody else have a problem? Okay with it? Okay. Okay, well, thank you. So we'll put it on the study session whenever. Okay. I guess the last thing I wanted to mention was I wanted to thank Mayor Bob Murphy and Carol and Janice Smothers from the City of Wheat Ridge. We had a good day at Leadership Jefferson County. It was an all-day event of Leadership Jefferson County in Wheat Ridge. We showed off our city a little bit, and we had a lot of students. There was like 30 some adult students learning about city government. So thank you to all those folks. So with that, any other questions or comments? We're adjourned.